Hey guys, welcome back. Thought I'd do a quick video after Saturday's game, England-Ireland. My first comment on Twitter was that Steve Borthwick might need to send his whole team to tackle school, seeing that Billy Vunipola got a red card as well, and justified red card. That's a second red card for bad tackling, head contact in 2 weeks. And seeing as the circus, as Andy Farrell put it, played out last week, you can expect Billy Vunipola to also get a sanction, and he might miss, if not a large part of the World Cup. He's not a dirty player, so he doesn't really have a record. So expect him to get 2 to 3 weeks, and they'll probably see him miss 1 or 2 games, but I still think he'll go to the World Cup. Steve Borthwick has got a problem at the moment, and not just that, his team's not playing great rugby. Ireland dismantled them pretty easily. It doesn't seem to be a happy camp. It doesn't seem to be the team to be playing with the same sort of confidence as they did, when they made the World Cup final 4 years ago. And I understand he's only been there for a while, but it seems that there's a lot of distractions. People are talking about the team for the wrong reasons, and he's having to answer a lot of questions that really coaches shouldn't really have to answer 2 weeks before a World Cup. You want a settled squad, you want a squad that's going to go in with confidence, and England certainly haven't had that. They've had 2 patchy games against Wales. They were beaten quite easily by Ireland, and I think there's a lot of things for him to work on. And then they're still in the easy group, so I think they are easy-ish group, so they should get out the group, and from there you can build confidence and momentum. But right now, where we stand, a couple of weeks out from the World Cup, I don't think England are in a good spot, and I think that must be very concerning to their supporters. Of course, let's first have a look at that Vunipola card. This is how the incident happened.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Billy's in trouble here.
Boys, there's no red card for her.
Absolutely.
Meets the yellow card threshold. Back to red. Yeah, and it was 8. White was at home.
Now, to me, that's a textbook clear red. Shoulder dropped, shoulders tucked. With force to the head, high degree of danger, no mitigation, as they say, and so that's a clear red to me, and I don't think there's anything that England could really gripe around about that.
Well, clearly, as you understand, I'm not going to comment upon the incident specifically because it goes into a disciplinary process this coming week. I think probably as every England fan feels is disappointment in the game today, and the need to keep, I said it before, we want 15 players on the pitch for 80 minutes of every game, and you're playing the number 1 ranked side in the world in their stadium, and we got to 14 men. It becomes a very, very difficult task at that point in time.
Of course, this comes a week after Owen Farrell's red card, which was, as I say, unfortunately, and I think I just want to address one thing as well. Andy Farrell called it a disgusting circus, what went on around Owen Farrell. And I think, I think people should realise it's not, while as much as it is Owen Farrell that people I think got away with murder again, and I think pretty honestly, it's not personal against him. I think it's more about the process. It's about the inconsistency that we see with World Rugby's disciplinaries, about how certain tackles are seen differently. The other day we just saw George Moala get a 10-week ban for a tip tackle with the player didn't even land on his shoulder or his head, landed on his back. And I think that there seems to be a feeling that there's a different set of rules for certain tier 1 nations, especially those in the home nations, and there's a separate set of rules for those in the tier 2 countries, and it's hard to argue when you see things like that. George Moala's ban was taken down to 5 weeks, but it certainly wasn't. And then you take Owen Farrell, who was also a clear textbook red to me. The tackle was never legal for me. There's a high degree of danger, and then the disciplinary panel of 3 Australians somehow inexplicably found that it was Jamie George moved Tane Basham's in a sudden change of direction, and that gave them mitigation. But the bottom line for me is that there's no mitigation if the tackle's illegal to begin with. And I know behind the scenes I've been chatting to a couple of people around the world, the context that I have, extreme unhappiness amongst the referees around the world because it basically threw them under the bus. They threw the entire bunker system under the bus. referees have been told to ref a certain way, and the disciplinary committee comes out and says that it's they're not saying they're wrong, but they are wrong, and so exonerates Owen Farrell. I feel bad for the England team. I mean, because certainly you wouldn't want these sort of distractions going into your next World Cup warm-up game. The whole thing is a bit of a circus in terms of that, but not because it was around Owen Farrell. I think what most people saw is they saw a player who's a serial offender, who's gotten away with a lot in the past, who's watched England manipulate sentences to get him back and play certain games, and him getting away with it once more. And that comes back to those inconsistencies. So I think people say to themselves, first of all, here's a player who is a serial offender, he gets away with this, he's got a record, he's gone to tackle school, he's done all this, but suddenly for him the rules seem to be bent, they seem to be changed, and I mean, I think Andy Farrell has probably got a point in terms of his son, that he thinks it's a circus, and any father would probably defend his son the same way. But I think what you must realize is that we're not talking about any player here. We're talking about one of the best players in the world who has got a problem with tackling technique, and if he didn't do it over and over again and get away with it, people would be a lot more understanding. So it's got nothing to do personally with Farrell. I think he's an exceptional player. But I think he does have a problem in terms of his tackling, and World Rugby has to intervene.
Whatever I say anyway is probably flawed anyway, because I know what you're talking about, when you're talking about somebody's son and you're asking him the question, he's always going to be flawed there, so what does that really matter, Probably, I don't normally say too much because of that type of reason, about my son. But what I probably would say at this moment in time, that the circus that's gone in and around all of this is absolutely disgusting, in my opinion, disgusting. And I suppose those people that have loved the time in the sun get a few more days to keep going at that.
You can't go on semantics and small differences, then it'll get chucked out. If the only way that this will be overturned is if the disciplinary committee now finds that the decision was totally wrong, which I believe it was, and I think a lot of people do believe it was as well. And that's the only way. But it's going to be interesting. It's a very high bar to clear, and people who are obviously much cleverer than I am with legal stuff tell me that it's going to be a very, very good argument from World Rugby to change that disciplinary. So we might be disappointed. I'm hoping we're not. I'm hoping sanity prevails. But there's a cynic inside of me that says wouldn't be surprised if he does get a ban and he gets a 3-week ban or 2-week ban, and that's that. Although with his disciplinary record, it should be somewhere around 6 weeks is what we expect, because he can't come in at the low point. It's a high degree of danger, so it should be a 6-week entry point. And given his disciplinary record, that should count against him. So we were all expecting a 6-week. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of compromise. It's just the way rugby works. I can't say it's right. But that's the way. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So I think in fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if it gets, the appeal loses the battle.